I begged the landlord. I called the fire department. I documented everything. No one listened, until the hallway filled with smoke at 2 a.m. I don't even know when it started, honestly. It crept in like mold behind a wall, hidden, slow, and spreading. And by the time I noticed how bad it had gotten, I was already infected by it too. I rent this small one-bedroom in an older apartment complex. The kind with thin walls and shared, squeaky hallways that make you hyper-aware of your neighbor's existence. I moved in 3 years ago after a breakup, thinking I needed somewhere quiet to regroup. Cheap, tiny, nothing fancy. Transitional, I told myself. Like this wasn't going to be permanent. My neighbor, let's call her Pam, lives alone in the unit next to mine. She must be in her early 60s, maybe more, but it's hard to tell. She keeps to herself mostly. I said hi when I first moved in, brought over banana bread that she never opened, at least not while it was fresh. Back then, I just figured she was a little lonely, maybe reclusive. Whatever. Not everybody wants to be best friends with the person next door. It was little stuff at first. Random thuds at night, like something falling. The hallway sometimes smelled musty. I thought maybe she was smoking inside, or maybe her place had a leak. I even asked her about it once, just casually, like, "Hey, everything okay over there?" And she gave me this tense half smile and said, "Oh, just rearranging a few things." It should have clicked earlier. But I wasn't really looking. I was trying to get over someone, trying to finish grad school, working nights, whatever. Life distractions. But then, during the pandemic, it got worse. Like, a lot worse. I was home all the time, so I could hear it. The constant dragging of things, like furniture, or boxes being heaved across hardwood. Sometimes loud bumps at 3 a.m. One night I heard something crash, like glass breaking, and I almost knocked on her door, thinking she'd fallen. I stood outside her apartment with my fist half raised, hesitating, just listening. It was totally silent. Then, just her TV. Some static true crime show, and this faint crinkling noise behind it, like rats nesting in aluminum foil. I didn't knock. I backed away. The smell, though. Jesus. It was like spoiled food mixed with, I don't even know. Wet carpet, maybe. Rot. I can't describe it straight without gagging a little. It seeped into the hallway and, eventually, into my apartment. My living room, right up against the shared wall, started smelling like an overflowing dumpster on a hot day. I started avoiding my own couch. That's when I complained to the landlord. Or tried to. He said, "Yeah, Pam's been here a long time. She keeps to herself," and then shrugged it off like I was being dramatic. I let it go. I shouldn't have. Then I saw inside. It only happened because I bumped into her in the hallway when she was trying to jam her door shut. She had like 4 plastic bags looped around both arms, the cheap dollar store kind, straining under whatever junk was inside. I offered to help, instinctively, and she snapped, "No thanks, I've got it." But as she spoke, the door swung open a little too far and, God, there were bags everywhere. Not just groceries, but old mail, empty soda bottles, stained blankets, God knows how many boxes just piled on top of each other. The path from the door to what I assume was the kitchen was maybe a foot wide. I could see old food containers on the stove. Newspapers reaching up almost to the ceiling, like weird paper monuments. And this smell hit me like a physical wave. Damp and sour and deathly. She slammed the door fast. I just kind of stood there, stuck mid-breath, trying to act like I hadn't seen anything. She mumbled something about spring cleaning and I mumbled something back. Neither of us meant it. After that, everything changed. I couldn't not know. I couldn't pretend it wasn't a problem. For me, not just for her. I'd feel the stench clinging to my clothes after a few hours in my place. It got so bad I started burning candles all day, leaving windows open even in winter. Friends came over once and visibly recoiled. One of them asked if I had a dead raccoon in my wall. I laughed, awkwardly, brushing it off. But it stung. Talking to Pam directly was a disaster. I tried, carefully. I wasn't accusatory. I even opened with, "Hey, I know life's been stressful lately," as if I were interviewing her for a job. She barely let me finish before she got tight, defensive, like I'd accused her of a crime. "I'm fine," she said. "You don't know what you're talking about. Just mind your own." Which, okay. But how do you mind your own when the problem seeps through your walls? I emailed the landlord again. No reply. I wrote a handwritten letter and dropped it in his mailbox. Still nothing. I started documenting the smells, the noises, the timeline of everything. I even called the city once, an anonymous complaint, but they said without immediate health risks or proof, they couldn't just barge in. Part of me felt like a bad person for pushing. like I was targeting someone vulnerable. But the other part of me, the part slowly suffocating in candle smoke trying to breathe in my own $1,050 a month studio, was furious. Pam's choices were bleeding into my life now. I couldn't relax, sleep, focus. I started spending more and more time at coffee shops, libraries, anywhere but home. That helped until it didn't, until I started dreaming about cockroaches pouring through the shared outlet in the wall. Until I came home and found tiny black pellets in my kitchen. I kept hoping, naively, she'd just move, or someone in management would step in. But she didn't. And they didn't. And now I think the mold's spreading. I didn't tell anyone for a while that I had started crying in my car after work. Not even crying, just sitting there, slumped and blank, heat turned off even in February, staring at the steering wheel like it had answers. It sounds dramatic, I know. But going home didn't feel like relief anymore. It felt like walking into something rotten I didn't have the language to properly report. And I started doing this thing, where I would hold my breath when I walked down our hallway, especially past her door. Like a kid who thinks if they don't breathe, the monster won't see them. I was exhausted all the time. I think the weirdest part was how alone it made me feel. I don't mean like isolated, I mean alone in a specific kind of way, like I was the only one acknowledging the plane crash while everyone else just stepped over the smoldering wreckage on the way to their errands. No one in the building talked about it. Not with me, anyway. I caught one of my upstairs neighbors once, as she was getting her mail, and casually asked, "Hey, have you noticed anything weird, like, kinda gross smelling from Unit 2B? And she paused, like she wanted to say something, like she had. But then she just smiled too widely and said, "Oh, I don't pay attention." And that was that. End of solidarity. I guess I started becoming obsessed? Maybe that's too dramatic a word. More like hyper-aware. I googled hoarding. I went down Reddit rabbit holes. Children of hoarders, tenants stuck in shared spaces, old threads about nightmare neighbors that never got resolved. I kept telling myself it wasn't that bad, that there were worse cases. That maybe I was weak, too sensitive, like everyone else could deal, and I was just fundamentally less adaptable. But then one night, it changed. I woke up around 2:40 a.m., not to any sound or light or obvious trigger. Just this deep unease, like my body knew something before my brain caught up. And then I smelled it. Not just the usual moldy stench. This was acrid. Thick. Burning. I bolted up and ran to the front door, heart jackhammering. And when I opened it, the entire hallway smelled like shit. Literal shit and melting plastic. Like someone lit a trash can full of diapers on fire. My brain did this awful stutter step between do I call 911 or do I knock on her door again? I chose the latter, I don't know why. Maybe because I kept imagining Pam passed out inside. Maybe because I'm still a stupid, hopeful person somewhere deep under all my complaints. My fist hit the door 3 times. Hard this time. No answer. The smell was worse near her place. I pounded again, louder, tried the knob, but it was deadbolt from the inside. I yelled her name. And then, eventually, shuffling. She opened the door just a crack, and I swear I almost puked. It was like the heat had amplified everything inside. Trash bags stacked taller than human height. Flies. I could see flies. She poked her head out, and her hair was matted to her forehead with sweat. Her skin looked gray. Not figuratively, literally gray. What happened? I barked. Are you okay? Something's burning. It smells like. I knocked over something on the stove, she mumbled. It's handled. You left it on? I didn't ask for help, she said through clenched teeth, and pushed the door closed. No apology. Just shame, and this bitter edge like she wanted to hiss but didn't have the energy. I stood there for way too long after she shut it. That smell sat in my hair the entire night. I called the fire department the next morning, anonymously. I told them the unit next to mine posed a health and fire risk. They sent someone out 2 days later, did a wellness check, knocked on her door, chatted with her for 5 minutes, and left. No citation. No inspection. As if it were just a misunderstanding. As if my life wasn't being swallowed by someone else's decay. I remember standing in my window that day, watching the fire chief walk to his car, casual, cap tucked under his arm, and I wanted to scream. Or cry. Or throw something. I didn't even know who I was mad at anymore. Her. Him. Myself for staying? Because that's the thing. I was still there. Still renewing my lease. Still lighting candles and taping the vent shut between our apartments in this pathetic attempt to build a wall that didn't exist. My friends kept saying, "You've got to move out," like it was that simple. Like my job paid me enough, or like I had family nearby with stashes of spare rooms. But it wasn't about just picking up and starting over. This was supposed to be my place. The one I crawled to after I lost everything else. And now I was losing this, too? I started keeping my toothbrush sealed in a Ziploc bag. That's when it hit me that something was very, deeply wrong with my life. I wrote the landlord again, a fourth time. Begged. Listed health hazards. Promised to call a lawyer. Attached photos from the night of the stove incident, which I'd taken from outside her door when she opened it. Not proud of that. But desperate makes you weird. He texted back a single sentence. I'll look into it. That was 2 months ago. Nothing has changed. But something in me kind of broke that week. Not in a sobbing under the table way, but in a quieter way, like I finally just accepted no one was coming to rescue me. And when that sunk in, I started making a plan. The plan wasn't even a real plan at first. More like a quiet shift in my brain where I started saying, I don't belong here, not angrily, just truthfully. Not because I was better than Pam, or above this building, but because I was suffocating, and no one else seemed to care. I started packing slowly. One box at a time. I didn't have a new place lined up. Hell, I didn't even have a timeline. But even stacking those cheap U-Haul boxes in the corner of my bedroom made something in my brain unclench. Like, okay, this isn't forever. You're leaving. You can leave. Meanwhile, things next door kept decaying. I stopped trying to intervene. She wouldn't answer the door anymore anyway. But I knew when she was home. I'd hear her moving boxes around at night, that awful dragging sound. I said to myself once, in the mirror, that's not furniture. It's her rearranging chaos. Managing the weight of it like sandbags in a flood. Sometimes I wondered what it felt like to live like that. I mean, really believe that every old takeout container or broken oscillating fan was worth keeping. I wondered if she went years without anyone touching her, like if maybe the trash got so high just so she didn't have to feel the aloneness in the room. I wanted to feel sorry for her. And part of me still did. But another part of me had grown sharp. I started documenting everything. I created a digital folder, Neighbor Safety Concerns. Recorded audio of the nighttime banging, saved text threads with the landlord, logged every fire department or building code call I made. I wasn't sure who would care about any of it, but I needed a record. I needed reality, in case I ever started gaslighting myself again, because living like that, honestly, messes with your head. Makes you question how bad it really is. I thought about confronting her one last time, face to face. Not to yell. Just to connect. I even rehearsed what I'd say. But then something happened that changed that forever. It was a Friday around 11 p.m. I was already in bed when I heard frantic banging in the hallway. Not from her unit, but on it. Like shaking the door. Then I heard another neighbor yelling her name, then the words, "Oh my God, call someone." And that's all it took. I leapt out of bed barefoot and cracked my door. Smoke. Again. Only this time, it wasn't from the stove. Apparently, a lamp had tipped over onto one of her piles and started smoldering. Not open flames, but enough to fill her space with rancid, thick smoke. She still hadn't come out. The hallway was chaos. A couple of tenants running around knocking on doors, someone cranking a window open. I saw the neighbor who'd yelled, an old guy from the end unit, with his hand on his chest like he was trying to steady his breath. Everyone was freaking out, finally. Fire trucks pulled up within 5 minutes. They got her out. Alive. Barely. She was coughing incoherent, shouting something about people trying to steal her things. They had to carry her down the stairs. The firefighters went in after with respirators. They hauled out bag after bag of pure trash. It just kept coming. At some point someone opened a window, and I swear, the smell poured out like it had a soul of its own. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, not even fear. Just this dead quiet in me like, yeah, of course it ended like this. The next day, I woke up and started calling new places. I didn't even wait for the complex to make a statement. Didn't care. It was over for me the second I saw her being wheeled out, eyes wide but not seeing anything. I found a studio uptown, more expensive, not as cute, but clean and quiet. I signed the lease that Monday. Moved out 2 weeks later with help from a coworker who didn't ask too many questions. I didn't say goodbye to Pam. I didn't even leave a note. I don't know where she is now. A rehabilitation center maybe, or with a relative, though honestly, it doesn't seem like she had anyone. Probably back in that same unit by now, if we're being real. I doubt they evicted her. It's easier, apparently, for people like her to slowly die in filth than for anyone in power to get their hands dirty. That's the part one can't explain to anyone, the quiet wearing that kind of situation does to you. It's not a horror story, it's not even really a tragedy. It's a slow erosion. Of your space, your calm, your sense of control over your own frickin' life. I sleep differently now. Not well, always, but quieter. I don't light candles all day. I don't triple bag my toothbrush. I don't hold my breath walking to my door. And sometimes that's what healing looks like. Not fireworks, just air.